Peace. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you back to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I am Sir Foul Player of Brooklyn, New York. Wanted to continue the conversation regarding this Hunter Biden apology and a little bit of a breakdown of how this family, came to prominence, how they became like when they started making money or enriching themselves mostly with the country of Ukraine, but there were other countries as well, like China, I believe, Kosovo or Serbia, um, a couple of other countries, and this isn't no long time endeavor. Like when you look at into it, even in the case of like in any of these countries, like where the Bidens seemingly were making money um, by capitalizing off the Biden name. Make no mistake that none of that money that we're talking about, or none of the industry that we're talking about, has anything to do with them investing in a business and then making money in that fashion. Like most of the money that we're talking about is basically solely influence peddling from what it looks like. I mean, it's no real services rendered. It's basically, we'll help you meet with this one and we'll connect our person with your person. Um, and there's no other way to explain what the value that Hunter Biden would provide in China, in Ukraine, and other countries where the Biden family was making money, Russia. There was nothing real that they provided, even legal services. Like Hunter Biden is, there's claims that he's a lawyer, but he's a non-practicing lawyer in essence. And in spite of that, though, there's no real evidence of litigation um, that would merit the millions of dollars that the Biden crime family was making on behalf of Hunter Biden. But I'm pretty sure that the operation, one could assume, allegedly, or most people that are actually paying attention allege that Joe Biden was the one operating this whole illicit operation. Now, when it comes to many of these things, it was all waved off as conspiracy. Anything like that Trump would bring up in relation to just about anything, but when you talk about the corruption that the Bidens were involved with, Joe Donald Trump brought that up on the debate stage in 2020, and that was shot down. Like they basically didn't allow him to go forward with that line of questioning in essence, and they allowed Joe Biden to skirt away from questions as to whether his son was making money off the Biden name, um, and whether Joe Biden had any foreknowledge of his son's business dealings, which we now know Biden claimed that he wasn't speaking any business with his son, and there's actually proof that he was speaking business with his son. But when any of these claims were brought up by Trump, it was brought up as if Trump claiming that the Bidens were making money in the Ukraine was this far out, outlandish conspiracy theory. And a lot of that is emanating from the fact that the media's treatment of Trump, in essence, in that anything that he would suggest was looked at or panned as a conspiracy theory, as a kind of like a hater, if you will, criticizing his opponents, and that he's only doing it based on whatever because he's a Putin puppet, because he's outlandish and says these far out like conspiracy claims, or Trump doesn't know the science. Anything that Trump suggests, there's a lot of people that will stick their ears, fingers in their ears, and no, 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 that's a lie, that's a lie, that's a lie, like that's a lie. Like I had my good brother here, on the well, actually, I commented on his channel, and I think he referenced the fact that something I suggested like was a loose association with Charlie Kirk, and I think most Americans, especially on the left, honestly, I don't want to say most Americans, because I listen to more lefty news just to get a laugh than I do anything else. I don't listen to Fox News for the most part. I listen to MSNBC, Sunday Morning News, not to be informed, because I know I look at it as those people are lying to me. I look at it more to get a laugh. I look at it for what they're telling the suckers that actually believe them. Um, when I could, because that way I know what they're gonna come at me with, being that I'm a Puerto Rican who's conservative, and that's not a niche thing in 2024. But we're changing all that. But I say that to say I already know how the mainstream media, the powers that be, and people who don't like Trump, how they treat any claim in which it might be favorable to him. They'll just treat it as like they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. Like babies in a sense. But I guess I still want to lay down the ground so that hope maybe in the future somebody could prove me wrong. Which I mean, many of my political takes on this channel, in spite of the fact that I get zero fanfare, like I get like no love from the YouTube algorithm, but I've been doing content for a minute, and I don't erase none of my shit by and large. Um, Very minimal. Like I mean, like there's videos that have 5 views that I started erasing recently, which I should have not done. But anyhow, if I've given a take of some shit that's gonna happen geopolitically, it's not that I'm right. It's just that I know for the most part that the news, the mainstream media, is clinically wrong, especially lately. And I could go to other sources and find out what the truth is. And usually I found out what the truth is months or weeks before it's covered on the mainstream media anyway. So I already have a little bit of foreknowledge when the when things happen. But the mainstream media, even till this day, I mean, like they basically, and the left in general, always try to frame things into some way in which you're unemotional for not understanding as to why a father wouldn't forgive his son. Oh, you're bigoted because you listen to the the Nachis, the Whittlers of Fox News. So like just by that association, you're supporting a fascist. Like they'll frame things like that where it automatically puts you on the defense, and you kind of get curtailed into discussing things while not maybe honing in on the core issue. So, and you've seen that a lot. I covered that yesterday and how the media is treating the Hunter Biden pardon and making it seem like well, it has to happen because he's this victim of a victim of drug addict status. Just because he's a drug addict. I remember 10 years ago. I mean, like the world didn't want shit to do with drug addicts, and for the sake of a millionaire in Hunter Biden, along with his millionaire several times over dad in Joe Biden, who's the president of this country, you're supposed to be sympathetic for a 55-year-old man who's been giving several opportunities over and over in Hunter Biden and who routinely messes them up. I mean, who's to say that Hunter Biden is on drugs in today? The But when it comes to things in relation to Trump, you're supposed to go hyperbolic. Any little thing you hear, oh, Project 2024, or or some cabinet member like that Trump selected um, looked a certain way, or a rumor came up about him. If you don't, and it was on the mainstream news that the rumor of this unknown person comes out. And if you don't take that with all the seriousness in the world, then you're in the Trump cult or something. And it's ridiculous. I mean, meanwhile, like the left standards have shifted over and over and over again as to what they'll accept. I mean, like I have like minorities um, that are vote liberal. They don't even they're not Democrat one way like in a like, but they've been so hyper politicized under the guise of just hating Trump that they're willing to accept anything. You know, they're willing to like in the instance of that boxer that fought in the Olympics, who some claim is a man. There's tons of it. I mean, not that the info on that is vague, but it looks like a dude. Um, and it's rocking its opponents, who are females, into submission. Like, I mean, but you'll have people that will bend themselves into a pretzel to defend some stupidity like that. Mind you, like these are people that were probably um, trashing anything to do with like the rainbow agenda, but they're willing to eat shit. Like the leftist defenders, they're willing to ingest every vax that's authorized in a couple of months for the sake of dunking on Trump, if you will. And with people like that, I mean, like that's really dealing with emotional people ultimately, and the mainstream media does a lot of the same, rivets that stuff up, and you wonder why people are so informed. Well, when it's really hard to be informed when you're only looking for a bit of info that'll steer you into the direction of like I hate Donald Trump. Like, so let me look for anything that says I hate Donald Trump and or verifies the fact that I hate Donald Trump. And if I see anything that may prove that Donald Trump is maybe a sympathetic figure in an instance, or maybe he's not guilty of something, I don't even want to hear that shit because F Trump, and I guess that's the cards that were dealt with in 2024. Thankfully, more and more people are waking up to what the skinny is, and I think now, yesterday, like after this whole Hunter Biden pardon really settled with the American people, a lot of instances of wait a minute, like I sort of remember stuff that happened in the beginning of this administration that seems funky, or that now that Joe Biden has pardoned Hunter Biden, like I could look at these things that happened in really recent history suspiciously. Whereas before I looked at it as a conspiracy because the news was telling me that anything to do with Hunter Biden and Ukraine was a conspiracy. Anything that was on the Hunter Biden laptop was a conspiracy. Oh, you believe that? Well, yeah, I do believe that. I mean, it was verified by Hunter Biden's lawyer that the laptop and all its contents were his. Look at this. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Let's see. How cute is that? Let me see if I can't see her face yet. How cute is that? She is? She's getting better though. Sorry. The so the whole contents of the Hunter Biden laptop were proven to be true, one, and were proven to be the property of Hunter Biden. That wasn't changed. Nothing like I mean, like there's numerous. Catherine Herridge, one of the best reporters, until she was fired by CBS for this same instance for the Hunter Biden laptop. Um, she said that she wanted to get the cleanest copy of the Hunter Biden laptop with no deviations, just so she could report it accurately. And CBS was adamant about not running that story. I mean, it took and she ultimately got fired from CBS. She's unemployed right now. She's working independently. And that's so a lot of these things now people seeing that Joe Biden is a liar who lied repeatedly that his son was going to face justice, who lied repeatedly about a president's words matter, something that you hear the liberal left say too. in reference to to uh damn, I got something in my eye. To Trump, they'll say the president's words matter, but when it comes to or Biden himself says a president's words matter. He's claimed that many times. Yet, when it came to outright, damn, pardoning his son for obvious crimes, um, none of that shit mattered. And again, like I mean, the liberal left media and the defenders of leftists, they're gonna frame it as, well, what do you expect? That's his father. I mean, the expectation. I mean, if Hunter Biden was targeted for being an innocent man or politically targeted by Biden's own Department of Justice, it'd be a completely different thing. But there's this whole lingering Hunter Biden laptop. The fact that Joe Biden on camera has admitted to trying to get political favors to help out his son in Ukraine. These things are out there for the public to see. They've been out there, but when you have a highly censored social media, the mainstream media, it's hard to really share and discuss these things these past couple of years. But maybe the fact that Trump won, maybe the fact that now America knows that Joe Biden is a big time liar, two-faced. Now that America has a chance to really soak in that Hunter Biden is not some sort of political asylee of some sort, or being persecuted because of his father. Like now, people are just starting to smell the roses. I mean, wake up and see what's what. But that's gonna give us time to discuss things that I've known regarding the Bidens in relation to like what I've read on the really good real news sources. I mean, Catherine Herridge, I think is a fantastic reporter, one of the best. And she had a great breakdown of all things with related to the Hunter Biden laptop. There's also expert excerpts that you could find that were based off the Marco Polo report, which is basically everything that was on the laptop was put into a book or printed form with basically no explanation. It's just bam, 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 emails, text, pictures. And Hunter Biden, I don't know if it was in some sort of drug stupor. I sometimes think that, I don't know if he was trying to get his dad at some point arrested or in trouble. I don't know if he, in a sense, maybe had been operating due to some sort of paranoia. Like, I mean, and I know drug addicts, especially people that smoke crack, they lose sleep and they just do bugged out shit. I mean, from what I know, historically. So, could a lot of the facts that Hunter Biden left so much evidence on his laptop be attributed to that? I don't want to say. I mean, I've made some guesses as to why this happened, but make no mistake, if you don't know anything about the Hunter Biden laptop, it's basically almost every picture that Hunter Biden took on his regular phone, on his laptop, videos, a ton of them. It seems like somebody who's like paranoid or something, drug dealing. Like he actually sends video to a crack dealer that he shorted him on like the amount of drugs that he sent them. Like, and he takes a video weighing out like a big ass couple of crack rocks like in a bag, and I guess he sends it to his video to his drug dealer as proof that he was shorted. Videos and photos of illicit things with uh, sex acts, I guess, with women, ladies of the night, if you will, sex workers, as the liberals call them nowadays, prostitutes. But there's also evidence of the relationship, as tumultuous as it was, of Hunter Biden with his sister-in-law, his brother Bo Biden's wife, who he at some point became romantically involved with after his brother died. And some people allege, I mean, I know what I've seen, allege that there's also evidence of a improper relationship with Hunter Biden and his dead brother Bo Biden's daughter, which would be Hunter Biden's biological niece, who at that time was a teen. I believe she's in her early 20s at this stage. I don't want to name her, but a lot of these inappropriate photos that are shared, stories that he's writing, um, or accounts of what he's going through and recounts of what he's going through. He's describing him to his brother's widow, and it just seemed, and he's also describing to her like inappropriate stuff, like that no regular consenting adult would discuss about their niece to the actual niece's mother. Um, and the niece's mother, although she's a widow, she's not innocent on all this. She's benefiting from that same um, rotten tree that is Biden Incorporated, the Biden crime family Incorporated. And these people, again, they don't sell anything. Like the Biden family, basically, from what like the details of the laptop show, they basically were an operation that just sold influence. Anything that required like multiple meetings, or a long-term relationship that required like too much dissemination. It didn't seem like Hunter Biden, and maybe even his dad, if he was the one directing this operation, they weren't interested in those kind of things. They were just interested in the making the quick buck, making really fast money. And the people who he's discussing business with on his laptop. Remember, everything I'm mentioning, a lot of what I'm mentioning, or pretty much everything I'm mentioning in relation, like, is on this laptop. So I don't know why he set up his laptop in this fashion, or why anybody would. Um, but there's so much incriminating evidence on the laptop that one would have to be a paranoid drug addict to put that much info on one's own computer. If you guys don't know too, that laptop, the way it was discovered was that the laptop was dropped off at a Apple repair shop in Delaware called Max, I believe, Max Repair Shop. And that person was given that laptop in order to repair it by Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden dropped it off, and I'm waiting on a package too. If you guys, damn, um, that laptop was dropped off at Max Repair Shop in Delaware, where Hunter Biden, maybe in his drug-addled mind, forgot it entirely. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the repair shop did their best to try to contact Hunter Biden in order for him to retrieve it back. But like most places that repair phones and laptops and anything for that matter, after a certain time, they basically, if you don't pick up your property, they take a hold of it. I mean, it's theirs. So, and a lot of these people who work on computers, they'll pry into your shit because they know how. Like, they know how to, go into a computer and read your stuff. Most times, I don't know if you got to give them your access. I mean, access to your stuff. I'm not a tech person. Like, I don't know how these things work. But In the case of Hunter Biden, his laptop was dropped off at this repair shop, left way beyond the threshold of the time that they give you. I believe he said that it was like 30 days or something, or 120 days. Once it was left beyond that point, they try to contact Hunter Biden. He basically was nowhere to be found. The guy goes into the laptop and he sees a lot of inappropriate pictures. Some say that they may have been with younger, little um, humans, if you will. And he then knows that Hunter Biden is the son of the most important politician, probably in the history of his state of Delaware, which is Joe Biden. And he knows that this person, Joe Biden, whose son Hunter Biden dropped off this computer at his shop, is involved politically. So he don't want nothing to do with it, in essence. And he calls a branch of the federal government, I'll put it like that, a policing agency of the federal government. I believe it was the Secret Service. And he said that he wasn't getting responses from them, and that it took them many months, or I think over a year, to finally get back to him. And the only thing that they asked him, if I memory serves me right, was if he had looked into the laptop, and he said no. That he only, I guess, saw like a picture, and then he decided not to go any further. And that I think they still didn't take the laptop initially, and then eventually they ended up taking the laptop at some point. However, now we move, and this was I don't know what year this was. Now we move fast forward to 2020. Now there's a somebody has possession of the hard drive of this laptop, or I believe I don't know. The FBI at that stage takes control of the laptop at some point. Somehow, a hard drive from that laptop and all the contents was brought up right before the 2020 election by Rudy Giuliani, if I remember, memory serves me right. The media, because it was right before the 2020 election, and because they were doing everything in their power to have Trump lose, they had 51 intelligence agents, or former intelligence agents, said that the laptop had all the markings of a Russian disinformation campaign. They didn't say that this is absolutely Russian. They didn't say like, well, we had possession of this laptop for a couple of years already, and we've had the ability to look through it, and we're telling you outright that this is Russian disinformation. No, they said that the presenting, I guess, of a Russian laptop, of Hunter Biden's laptop right before the election had the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. So, I mean, that's basically anything that you find that may be politically inconvenient to Democrats, just blame the Russians, and you'll basically get a pass. That's an acceptable excuse with especially for people that already being fed by the media how much Trump is a bad guy, and COVID was rampant at this time, so everything bad in the world they attributed to Trump at that time. So when somebody who was sort of in the Trump team, and Rudy Giuliani, comes out right before the election in October of 2020 with evidence that Hunter Biden's laptop has all this dangerous, compromising to the U.S. information on it, business dealings with China and Russia and Ukraine, this is all on this laptop right before the election goes down. And the media basically did a favor for Joe Biden and stuck it to Trump by saying that the laptop was Russian disinformation. Now, how do I validate that they stuck it to Trump in that? Well, you already had a bunch of years of a fake media push stating that Trump was a Putin puppet or a slave to the Russians to some form of capacity. So when on the eve of the election, you have the mainstream media again saying that this laptop story of Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, comes out and it has all this dangerous compromising to the United States information within the laptop, and then you hear Russian, automatically a lot of dumb people, which is 80% of Americans, unfortunately, they ran with it. They ran with it and said, "Oh, that's nothing I should be listening to because those damn Russians got Trump elected in 2016, according to the mainstream media." Um, and this is another ploy by them on the eve of an election to help Trump and to take the legs from under Joe Biden. And even in 2024, you fast forward almost more than 4 years later, because that happened in October of 2020, you still have people that will shoot down anything to do with the Hunter Biden laptop because they still think that that's Russian disinformation. Well, I mean, I'm not like trying to sell you on anything because I wanted Trump to win the election. But if you have any investigatory bones within you, I mean, go look at the laptop yourself. I mean, the Marco Polo report is out there. There's people that have covered it. It's not like they're picking and choosing. And even if they are picking and choosing on what's on somebody's laptop, it's like if you were to find CP on somebody's laptop, you're not going to say, oh, well, look at all these other good things. Oh, well, you're framing that wrong. If you find evidence of somebody doing drugs on their laptop, I mean, there might be some redeeming shit on there, hypothetically, but that's not the case with Hunter Biden shit. Like, there's nothing redeeming on there. It's just business dealings, drug dealings, and him living the life on the taxpayers and dime for the most part, or enriching his family and himself with foreign money because of who his father is. And so, you know, their images that are on there, and like the media try to get cute, and like when they actually did a year after the election, have to come around to the fact that the Hunter Biden laptop was true. It was actually in possession of the authorities at the government level, and they had looked through it a year or two before the story came out in 2020 on the eve of the election. So you have the intelligence agencies, in essence, had all the time in over a year looking into the Hunter Biden laptop, because they did look into the Hunter Biden laptop. It didn't just sit around on some shelf. Before they claimed they lost it, like the FBI, under Matt Gaetz' questioning, I mentioned this yesterday, actually claimed that they lost the Hunter Biden laptop. They actually testified to that in Congress, to where he then resubmitted a new hard drive containing all of the information from the Hunter Biden laptop. He had to reintroduce that into Congress again so that Congress could have it and maybe they could pass it off to the FBI. But nevertheless, the FBI already looked into the Hunter Biden laptop prior to the election. And they, along with the mainstream media, teamed up to push this narrative that this all may be the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Well, it's not. The fact that Joe Biden put Hunter Biden as the point person for this operation is not a sign of a good father. If I knew that I have a brother that's a big drug addict, big time drug addict. I have two brothers like that. If I were a person of power, would I put them at the helm of a money making operation that has to do with only wielding my family's name politically on these foreign countries and put my brothers who are drug addicts at the helm of that, knowing that they're going to have access to easy money, knowing that they're going to be wined and dined in these foreign countries like Ukraine, one of the most corrupt countries. Um, Prior to the war breaking out, this was widely reported. You know, why then would I put my son, if I were Joe Biden, the president of these United States, why would I put my son at the helm of this operation where it just seems like it's an operation that he could have called out and said, listen, that's inappropriate for you to be making money in Ukraine, seeing that I'm the point person for America in Ukraine. So just off the base of maybe we don't want things to look bad, why don't you not have any dealings in Ukraine? Nah, Joe Biden historically has been a slimy politician for most of his life. Somebody who's been not accountable for most of his life, and he just saw a way to make a quick buck. And the only family member that he could send out to run this operation was his drug addict son. And I mean, Hunter Biden has evidence of being a drug addict for decades. When you look at the fact that he was in the U.S. Navy and was kicked out for drug use after like a month. When you look at evidence that I believe on the Hunter Biden laptop, and even in the past, like there's been claims that, and these are not just claims because I think he references it on the Hunter Biden laptop, but claims that Hunter Biden was doing drugs with Marion Barry, the mayor of D.C., who's now deceased, but who was on video smoking crack. He was actually busted for smoking crack on video in a hotel. You know, so knowing that, I mean, and I started to wonder too, because Joe Biden was like the tough on crime, you know, author of the Joe Biden crime bill. He actually was proud of that. One of the bills that sent black and Latin people to jail more than probably any other act in this country was the Joe Biden crime bill, or the 1984 crime bill. I wonder too, like, what if he had found out about his son's drug use with this black mayor of D.C., Marion, damn, I forgot his name, Mayor Marion Barry. What if he found out, like, listen, this black dude is over here sparking my son up with the crimes, having him smoke crack while he's attending school in D.C. I already don't like black people as Joe Biden. Many have made those claims as he's a racist. He's actually said that he didn't want his kids to go to school in a racial jungle. Um, in his testimony, um, so you already know that he has that racist bone within him. The calling out black people and saying like that if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. He actually said this on Charlemagne's show. At an award ceremony while he was the president, he referred to LL Cool J as boy. See, but these are things that when leftists listen to them, they take it with a grain of salt, and they don't get up in arms about it at all. But mention Trump and anything, and it's unless you get as mad as they are. Damn, I had my comments turned off. Shit. But let me make sure I didn't get comments anyway though. Look on my phone. God damn. Peace, Bruce Times. I mean Deuce Times. Peace, Bruce Gas. Bro, getting his hours in. Salute, homie. Also, Hunter's laptop showed affair with his dead brother's widow and his niece. Laptop also showed Hunter getting money from other countries like Ukraine and China, calling his dad Pedo Pete. Yeah, that's another thing too. Hunter Biden's phone contact for Joe Biden was Pedo Pete. Like, so for instance, if I had Deuce Times as one of my phone contacts, I would just put Deuce Times or something with, like, I mean, I have a different name for my wife's phone contact. But I definitely wouldn't put my dad's name as Pedo Pete. Definitely not. Um, However, and going back to that laptop too, the more dangerous thing as far as Ukraine goes, the only thing that the danger in that is that they could blackmail the current sitting president and Joe Biden because his son sat on the chair of a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, and the obvious thing is that Hunter Biden doesn't have experience with energy, let alone Ukrainian foreign energy. The company paid him $1 million outright. I think they were going to pay him $1 million per year to sit on the board of Burisma. His when they gave the breakdown of the board members of that company, the first thing they mentioned, the bullet point of what Hunter Biden's qualifications were, was son of Vice President Joe Biden. So that just shows you like what they were hiring for, and it was basically hiring him for his name. And you have also in relation to the well, let me get to the other part that I was going to mention regarding China. I'll get back to the Ukrainian dealings too. But the bad thing with the China dealings, which there's a lot of evidence of, I think the company that Hunter Biden was operating with his China hustle, if you will, was Seneca. And I may have the name wrong, or don't quote me on that. But anyways, with China, China's a communist country. There's anything that happens business wise in China has to get approved by the government of China. So basically, almost like most of the industries in China are government owned. I'll put it like that. So even if you have an independent industry, you have government involvement at all turns. In fact, there's a lot of evidence that China has a lot of real estate ventures here in America. That's not evidence. That's actually true. I've been seeing this since the '90s in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, when the Chinese went on real estate buying spree that was never seen in this country, and it started in my neighborhood and Sunnyside, Queens, I believe, um, were the two neighborhoods that they were no Flushing, Queens. I'm sorry, that the Chinese went about buying up these residential houses, and my neighborhood is it's not a big neighborhood like that. I mean, in Brooklyn, it's a little quiet, small neighborhood. I mean, not quiet. You get the idea. But these you had a lot of people that were entering the country from China that had cash that were buying these houses for triple the price. And people started making the correlation that cash that they were acquiring was coming directly from China. And China actually benefited from buying real estate in my neighborhood. I'll give a quick story because I would see Social Security offices at that time when I would go with my grandma, full of like Asian people only. I'm like, damn, like isn't this like for retirees? And I found out that the laws required for elderly in America to qualify for Social Security and healthcare. Now in China, I also found out that if you once you hit the age of 32 as a man, that you were solely responsible for your wife's parents' health care, your own parents' health care, your own grandparents' health care if they were alive, and your wife's grandparents' health care if they're alive. So I mean, you know how medical bills could rack up. So China probably thought that it was a better idea to take a country like the U.S. who has this policy where they would allow for Social Security for as soon as you get to America for you to receive Social Security. Um, they passed that off to America. Like, hey, let's maybe buy real estate in America, have our elderly sent there, and then we don't got to foot the bill for it. I mean, for China, that's smart. America is retarded. But I always saw that as an enterprise that was run directly from China in terms of them buying real estate in my neighborhood, Sunset Park, Brooklyn. the second largest Chinese community in America, Sunset Park, Brooklyn, my hood. Um, I always saw that. I knew what it was like even back then, and I'm finding these things out when I was a teenager because I'm living in it. Um, so I know that that country, China, operates as one unit. You know, it's China above all else. Like, when they operate business wise, let's say, as China. Like any corporation that gets open up abroad, most times it's the Bank of China that's cutting the financing or the loan, the check, to make that venture pop off. Now you fast forward to Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden has these dealings with China where they're trying to take land that's do ventures abroad, um, on land that was defended by the U.S. I believe, I forgot what islands, where the Chinese wanted to um, start some sort of venture there. I'm not sure what it is that I could recall off the top of my head, but they got Hunter Biden to basically consult with them, um, and they were going to pay him a fee. And that fee, I mean, you could easily say that it was for access to Joe Biden. So you have to wonder, like, not wonder, you have to worry that, listen, like, a lot of these dealings are done by a country that, I mean, if you list off three countries that may have beef with the US, China's got to be top two. But you then have the vice president's son, or in Hunter Biden, and the current president's son, that has all these shady dealings going on with China, who only operates like one unit. They don't operate like there's several factions going on in China. Everything about China operates like one really solid unit that's only looking out for their own best interest. And if they have blackmail information, such as um, evidence of the current president's son receiving money from them, what's to say that they didn't use that on the current president and say, listen, like, in these dealings that we're going to have with you, um, you already know what's up. You received millions from us by way of Hunter Biden. And if you aren't favorable to us in policy, let's say, or taxes, whatever, then we're going to put this out for the public to see. And, so that's highly damaging. When it was Trump, and like the people were jumping the gun and saying that Trump was may have been a Putin puppet, or may have been a puppet to Russia. I mean, the media was going nuts over that shit. But when there's actual evidence on the Hunter Biden laptop, which, make no mistake, the media has access to Hunter Biden laptop. If they don't, I'll direct them. They go to the Marco Polo report and read it for themselves, or go on Twitter. Twitter, I'm pretty sure you can find every bit of information on that fucking laptop. But when it came to an association with Hunter Biden receiving money, possibly on behalf of his father, from China, from Ukraine, that wasn't no big deal. Another thing too, damn, there was something in terms of China that I wanted to say. Oh yeah, there's also in the laptop many times, there's talk of one of the characters that Hunter Biden is referring to as the big guy. Many people have suggested that the big guy is actually a code for Hunter Biden. There was a man by the name of Tony Bobolinsky, who was an associate, or Devin Archer, one of the two, that was an associate of Hunter Biden, who actually did business with Hunter Biden, who, and I think in the case of Devin Archer, received actually a commendation from Joe Biden for being in business with his son. He actually has it like in a letter. But when they had to testify as to who they were referring to in the Hunter Biden laptop as quote unquote the big guy, um, he or both of them actually verified that it was actually Joe Biden who was the big guy that they were referring to. And a lot of times when they're referring to the big guy, they're saying like to set aside a certain amount of money for the big guy, like 10% for the big guy. Like, so is that big guy Joe Biden, like they all claiming to be? I mean, in my mind, yes, it is. I mean, it's pretty much definitive proof. But the mainstream media and the leftist defenders, they play blind with anything, even when it's right in their face. So I mean, like they're not, if they don't want to go look for themselves, I mean, that's on them, I guess. But the American people are putting two together now because what's happened in these last 4 years since Joe Biden's became the president, you have this attitude of we have to do everything for Ukraine. Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Your taxes got to go up because of Ukraine. We got to go to war because of Ukraine. We got to arm Ukraine. We got to empty our war stocks for the sake of Ukraine. Like, and you should suffer here in America, black, Latin, poor person, because Ukraine's more important. This European white country is more important than you getting cheaper gas or you eating this evening. And you go back to the pardon of Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden was pardoned from 2014 to 2024 for crimes in relation to 2014 to 2024. And you look at the time period that covers, and it's a couple of months before Hunter Biden sat on the board of this Ukrainian energy company, Burisma. So that's all too convenient. You also have the fact that around that time, in Ukraine, if you guys have read up on any of this stuff, and there's actually a good documentary regarding a lot of this stuff that happened in Ukraine around 2014 called Ukraine on Fire, I believe it was called. It was actually done by, damn, what the hell is his name? Forgot it, the guy's name. He's a good documentary maker. He made a good documentary about Vietnam. But and they cover basically how the powers that be, I'll put it like that, instigated a regime change in the Ukraine. Like the guy who was in charge of Ukraine at that time, I think it was Yanukovych. He was leaning towards reestablishing a relationship with Russia because at that time Ukraine was deciding whether to have a closer relationship with the European Union or the West, or whether to reestablish their relationship with Russia, which at one point they were part of Russia, and a lot of the people in the eastern portion of Ukraine that touches Russia consider themselves Russian. So the president at that time was considering realigning himself with Russia because they were getting their energy from Russia in exchange for grain. And the fact that the Russian fleet was still in Ukraine, like in Crimea. Crimea is also a region that considers itself Russian, that's in Ukraine. It's like a little peninsula, but it doesn't touch Russia like the east of Ukraine does. It's actually a little bit off of actually touching Russia, but they still consider themselves Russia, and it's Russian territory. So the president of Ukraine at that time basically said, it probably is more convenient for the Ukrainians to have a Russian to work alongside of Russia rather than working alongside the EU. A couple months later, a revolution in that country started. I don't want to say if America was involved or not. A lot of people have alluded to the fact that America may have been involved, but before that revolution did pop off, there were a lot of American politicians. McCain had showed up to Ukraine giving speeches that were like anti-Russian, and this is happening in speeches at the revolution, like when anarchy basically broke out, and they were trying to topple that current president. It was inappropriate for, in my eyes, for American politician like you, McCain, to show up to that country and make speeches and rivet things up or fire things up, if you will. But Lindsey Graham has made appearances in Ukraine, and a lot of them, all of them, essentially were not going to Ukraine to like try to help out Putin, whether they were Republican or a Democrat, because a lot of people can't look past like thinking, oh well, these damn conservatives. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, slimy politicians don't have a party allegiance. But I point out the fact that everybody on the left is 100% corrupt. Yes, there are many Republicans that are corrupt, but Trump actually holds account and as to who's who, and puts them to task. Whereas the left, they could see the worst of the worst amongst them, and so long as they have the Democrat designation, they won't call them out. Especially lately, I mean, tell me what instances of Democrats going against Democrats besides Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema because they didn't vote along party lines all the time. You tell me. I mean, point out the evidence. But so going back to 2014, this revolution pops off. You actually have phone calls that are leaked in which they're American officials coaching up like how the revolution of 2014 in the Ukraine was gonna pop off, how to make it, how to set certain things up, what president they wanted as the next person. At that time, the one of the boxing Ukrainian twins, I forget the names. Vladimir and well, anyway, one of the he's the governor of Kiev, the capital of Ukraine now. But one of those boxing heavyweight brothers was trying to become the next president of Ukraine at that time. And the phone call that was leaked by an American official is basically saying like, no, we don't want that person to be in charge. We want this other guy. And that was the other guy that ended up becoming the president. And that they weren't going to work with the European Union. They actually said, fuck the European Union on that leaked phone call, the American official, coaching these Ukrainians on what they should do with their revolution. That's in 2014, remember. So you got a government that's already in place. As soon as he started making inroads to align himself closer with Russia rather than the European Union, a revolution pops off in that country, in Ukraine. On that current president is replaced by another president who just a few weeks before that, an American official is saying that they're going to put that president or implant that president. So how does this tie in with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden? That's a good question. Because this is where a couple months later, where you have, or maybe even before that, you have Hunter Biden landing this cushy job on the board of a Ukrainian energy company. You also have, after that time, and even before that time, I believe, Joe Biden was appointed as the point person in Ukraine. Some people were saying that he was the unofficial president of the Ukraine. And you already know how Joe Biden gets down. Come on, my people. Like, this is the slimiest of the slime politician. I mean, this was even recognized by Democrats prior to him running um, against Trump. You know, even when he was laced with Obama back in the day, the reason that they put Obama and Biden together was because they wanted to stick Biden with one of the people. Well, they wanted to stick Obama because he was a black man, and they wanted to put him alongside of the most center, most more along the lines of right um, Democrats that there was. And enter Joe Biden. He was the Democrat that was always had this racist history of authoring the Biden crime bill. He was actually proud of it up until and claimed that recently that he was proud of the fact that he authored that bill. Um, so for that reason, they had to pair up Joe Biden, one step away from being an outright racist, not even a step away, outright racist, who's one step away from dealing with the most Dixie conservatives you could think of, along with the whole social brother, Obama, one of the worst presidents on record. Now that I have time to think about it, they had to pair them up to give America the impression that this is not like one of those kind of black people, because look at who we're not pairing them up with Bernie Sanders. We're not pairing them up with a woman. We're pairing him up with this old white guy who, if you do a little digging, he's always had this racist history, racist policies even. And I'm pretty sure that Obama, knowing that at this stage the Bidens and the Obamas don't really get along, there's been rumors that Obama has stated that Joe Biden has a tendency of fucking everything up. Um, that's a report that was put out there by unnamed sources. And I mean, look at Joe Biden. I mean, has he done anything good like these past couple years? Of course not. And that's all he's done is a series of fuck ups. So I think knowing that they know that Joe Biden was a serial liar and had a tendency of being bombastic, a bully, talking out of pocket at times, let's appoint them as the head person in Ukraine and keep him occupied there. The country's already corrupt. He's corrupt, so he could entertain himself by enriching himself in Ukraine. And at the end of the day, he's a no-nonsense bully politician. So if it comes to negotiating anything regarding aligning with Russia or with the West, I mean, we have one of our most seasoned politicians there negotiating policy. You also have evidence of Joe Biden at a meeting for the Council of Foreign Relations on video admitting to practicing quid pro quo in Ukraine, something that Donald Trump was actually impeached for, if I remember correctly, or where Joe Biden is proudly stating that he got a prosecutor fired, and or that he was that he wanted a prosecutor in the Ukraine to be fired, and that if they didn't fire him, that they would withhold $1 billion in American aid. And in the story, he said that he got fired basically that same afternoon or that same day. And he's having a good chuckle about it. And all these slimy people from the Council of Foreign Relations, fitting, are having a laugh at it as well. Love, is the UPS there? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm waiting on my son's Christmas gifts. Can't miss them. But damn, where's my water going? So these are all things if you know of anything I'm speaking of. I mean, I'm sorry to bore you, but chances are you don't know a lot of what I'm speaking of because the media has left American people blind to the obvious corruption. They want to concoct fake corruption when it comes to Trump, but when there's obvious laptop evidence of corruption, when there's actually video evidence of Joe Biden doing actual quid pro quo. You do a favor for me and I'll do a favor for you, which apparently it's not acceptable for politicians to do. But it certainly shouldn't be acceptable when a prosecutor is investigating a politician's son who has these dirty dealings in another country, Ukraine, and that Joe Biden gets him fired in one day. And he's admitting to it on video. It's not a conspiracy theory. This actually happened on video. Now, if Trump did any of these things, like if Trump was on video telling the Council of Foreign Relations, who I remember liberals were the biggest people. I mean, were the biggest people calling out the CFR and all these slimy organizations. Now liberals love the FBI, liberals love Council on Foreign Relations, liberals love war. You know, so but if Trump were to do any of these things, you wouldn't stop hearing about it. I remember hearing about quid pro quo, like in that sentence or that saying being played out in relation to Trump, and it was a case that they were trying to level against Trump, emanating out of the Ukraine. Also, when you have the story of the Russian collusion, if you guys don't know, that was paid for. Um, I'll get to that in another time. But a lot of grimy things in the last couple years have been emanating from Ukraine, and you got to figure, like, Joe Biden has been dealing with the Ukraine for over 10 years. His son has been enriching himself in that country, but it's totally fine for the American people to have their taxes wrecked because of Ukraine, have their gas prices and groceries go up in price because of Ukraine. But if you do anything and call out any of the bullshit that was happening in Ukraine by way of the Biden family enriching themselves in that country, then you are likely to be censored on the platform that I'm speaking to you guys right now. But have you guys heard any of this stuff on the news with any great detail? No. But let any cabinet member that Trump selects have a little bone in their closet, and the media goes on lights itself on fire as if that's the biggest travesty happening in the world. But meanwhile, you have potential for a world war popping off in Ukraine, but you also have a ton of corruption that was being partaken by the current president's son in that country. One could ask yourself, is the Biden administration so gung-ho about helping the Ukraine because the Ukrainians have damning information about his son, damning information about Joe Biden himself? I mean, one could only ask. I mean, I don't want to jump the gun like the media does, but could these things but as far as foreign countries, foreign entities giving money to the Biden crime family, could they now in 2024 and throughout the Biden administration since 2020, could countries like China, could countries like Ukraine be dangling blackmail information potentially over this administration? I mean, one should ask. Now moving on with Trump and what Trump should do with this. I'm hearing that in spite of the fact that Hunter Biden was pardoned, that he could still have to testify in front of Congress. And I think that they should make inroads to investigate all these people that are enriching themselves from the Biden crime family. Where you got Joe Biden's sister, I think her name is Kimberly Biden, or Joe Biden's brother, Fred or Frank Biden, another unimpressive lump of shit. Hunter Biden himself, you now have evidence on his laptop. There's also evidence of apparently um, Joe Biden's granddaughter receiving money from this influence operation that that the Biden family has enriched itself with. Um, and is Joe Biden the only politician doing this? No. But it's good that we have a real target that we could look to as a sign of, listen, there's obvious corruption happening in this country. And in my eyes, it's obvious that Trump hasn't partaken because there's been nobody in American history who's been investigated more than Trump. They had evidence of Trump being corrupt. Trust me, it would have been out there. It's not. But the media still gets away with making it seem as if the only corruption happening in the world is by way of anything associated with Trump and nothing else is happening. I mean, if you guys believe that in 2024, I mean, it's dangerous to be that stupid or to be that blind or to root for a team so hard. Um, but should Trump start conducting investigations? Yes, I think that if that level of corruption could seep up to a president, which I'm pretty sure it has, and you now have a president pardoning his son, which is basically Joe Biden covering up his own crimes because Joe Biden can't be prosecuted because he's a president. The only time a president or the justice system went out of his way to try to rank itself and bend into knots to try to go after somebody was Trump. But these aren't things that happen normally. Unless they have some sort of state crime, most of the window in which Hunter Biden or Joe Biden could have been prosecuted is probably elapsed at this stage. They usually don't give you that many years to where you could investigate a crime unless it's like murder or something. Having said that, I still want Hunter Biden to testify in front of Congress. That way, if he lies, they could arrest him for that. And honestly, I don't want him arrested. Like, that's not. I mean, I don't give a shit if he's arrested, frankly. But um, what I want is to find out the truth. I want to see how deep were the Bidens involved in this, mainly Joe Biden. But I want to see also because Joe Biden didn't just start being corrupt when he was the president. Joe Biden's been a corrupt piece of shit. Many of these politicians, same deal. I want them all put on blast. I'm with it. I don't care if they cave out the whole Republican Party along with the Democratic Party. I'm not a Republican. I don't give a shit. The if they get rid of all the Republicans that are in place now and replace them with new school Republicans, fantastic. I'm with that 100%. But I do know that the Democratic Party has really gone above and beyond with pushing the media to run stories that are only looking towards Trump for any sort of corruption. I also know that the FBI and the criminal investigative agencies in this country have gone above and beyond to censor this kind of talk up until recently. There's actually proof of that in the Twitter files where they went to Facebook um, and in Twitter and basically bullied these companies into censoring or propagating stuff that was favorable to the powers that be. So I don't have a problem with finding out the truth and say, for instance, Trump is found out to be too corrupt. I doubt that's going to happen because I already know that Trump is being investigated like no other. But if they happen to find out that it's only conservatives that are corrupt, fantastic. But I know, I'm no dummy, that that's not what we're going to find out solely. I mean, if they do find out that some conservatives that are corrupt, I mean, they're going to find out pretty much 95% of the Democratic Party at the minimum is corrupt, has been enriching themselves by the same ways that Joe Biden and the Biden crime family have been doing. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I want to thank you guys for pulling up, Bruce Gas. my brother Deuce Times. Salute to you guys. Thank you for pulling up. But for anybody that found this video today, I mean, the YouTube algorithm is doing nothing to help me. But you can, by like, sharing, and subscribing. I'm just a humble Puerto Rican from New York City who has found his way into conservatism, the way of my parents, the way of my grandparents, the way things should be, the way that Latin American and Black American males have been in this country since we've had a country up until recently. But we're gonna fix all that. Um, at least I'm trying in my own household, and YouTube doesn't look at that favorably. If I were here with some sort of rainbow and saying anti-Trump things, I'd get all the love from the YouTube algorithm. I suspect, but I'm not gonna sell out. And I frankly would like to take this party off of this platform entirely. That way, I could go in without having no censoring. But this is where most of the people are, and I'm gonna be here until I get the boot. But having said that, maybe I like these to be conversations rather than me babbling. So also comment on these videos too, and I always respond. But the biggest thing you could do is like share my content if you could, or if you enjoy it, like, comment, do what you will. Uh, but as far as I go, I want to thank you for even pulling up. Whether you comment or not, it helps. But with that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I may come on again tonight, but I'm not sure. But if I don't, I hope you guys have a wonderful night. With that, peace.